In 1988, a record comes out, Just Want Another Chance by REESE, and it has that known feel and texture to it. And since then, this type of bass has evolved into many forms and morphed with a lot of other sounds and basses. Here I will show you different types and examples of REESE bass, basses of different complexity and soundscape. Here levels don't mean that level 1 is bad and level 100 is the best, it's more like a palette of colors that you can use in your mix and integrate it into your track. Starting with something more basic and less aggressive, open up Vital, and the first thing that you can do is to turn up two basic shapes, triangle waves, and detune them slightly off one another, also putting both of them down 1 octave. And we get this unnerving sound. But it's still too noisy and uncontrolled, so we can add a third oscillator also from basic shapes. This is a sine wave. This one will be the sub of this REESE. Turn on oscillator 3 here and leave only low end. Second filter we will use for the first and second oscillators, cutting their low end just enough. REESE is still too noisy, so let's go to the effects and add multiband compression, equalizer, and finally a filter that will shave off these harsh high-end frequencies. It's a pretty nice sound, but we can make it wider by adding some unison on top of our detuning, like 4 and 8 voices. For fun with automation you can turn on glide and legato options, add 12 semitones in the bend option, and now using this wheel on the left you can automate your bass, making it more dynamic and unique. Level 15 REESE will be a bit more complex than the previous one, still using Vital, but as you can see separating the subharmonics into a separate MIDI channel. It will give you more control over your sub bass rather than tweaking everything in Vital itself. Shaving highs and mids with EQ8, using utility in mono, and giving a little boost with saturation. The REESE channel itself will be a bit different. The second oscillator that I chose was also from basic shapes, between triangle and a sine. This one just gives a different texture to the sound. Also using multiband compression, carving low mids a bit with an EQ, and the filter shaving off high end. Here I added an EQ8 to shave off low end, not in the Vital, but on the MIDI channel itself, just to make some space for our sub bass channel. This one sounds a bit thicker and cleaner than the previous one. Same two channels with separated sub and main bass, and the main one is also in Vital. This one has more tonal sound to it, using a classic band as a bass oscillator. I added 16 voices of unison in here, and to make it fattier I highly recommend trying out and changing this unison option in the advanced settings. For example, center drop 24 option makes the sound lower and growlier. Another small thing that you can do is putting oversampling rate higher, like 4x or 8x. It makes sound a little cleaner and more present. Adding a classic fade with the formant option to add these additional tones to the bass, making it more complex and unique. Adding a noise layer is also a valuable option, giving more body to the bass. To add some movement you can use LFOs. In this case I just routed this LFO to the filters and made it slow, like 41 in sync mode. Not too much, just to have this feeling of evolving sound. Next up we're gonna go to Serum and talk about some basics to get you started. Separating sub and main bass for more flexibility, and then going back to Serum. 2 standard triangle waves, 1 octave lower each, and detuning them just a bit. This already gives this noisy REESE sound. A great filtering option to achieve gritty and dark REESE in Serum is a band reject filter. Increase the drive knob to your liking. Playing with the width option will give different texture to the sound. I like connecting it to the macro option for easier automation. Turning on mono, legato, portamento for more movement of the bass. In the FX, adding some dimension, tube distortion and a filter to shave off higher frequencies, as usual as in the Vital. Because we don't use unison here, we can go ahead to the global tab and turn off width to 0 and increase quality to 4x. The bass sound is complete. Making REESE wider in Serum is pretty easy. In this case we can use unison levels, the same band reject, but this time adding more movement with LFOs, connecting them to the EQ and filter cutoff in the effects section. And we will also add more dimension and tube distortion here. Going a step above from here will be actually processing several chains at once. Here, as you can see, I don't have a separate MIDI channel. Instead of that, I used an instrument rack inside Ableton and layered it all in one MIDI channel. Here there are 3 of them: noise, main REESE and the sub. Each is processed a bit differently, which makes this REESE more unique and just adds texture to it. Noise layer is super simple, just an AC noise with the lowered pitch, adding a thermal for more stereo width and distortion, and EQing out all the unnecessary stuff. You might say that this is super dumb and unnecessary, but noise just adds a bit of dimension and complexity to the bass, especially if you are using this type of bass as one of the main sounds, like in a drop of a DnB track, for example. Second layer is just REESE. You can use the same REESE that I showed you. In this case I changed it quite a bit and made something like this. Then I also added some distortion, thermal has a great and unique presets, and EQ'd out all the lows for the sub layer. In the sub, doing all the same things as in previous sub basses, just cutting all the mids and highs here and adding some utility in mono. And now moving to Phaseplant. Phaseplant has a ton of options in terms of sound design and bass complexity, and you can make an awesome REESE bass with it as well. The main idea of creating this REESE bass is separating it into 2 lanes. Similar to separating main REESE bass and sub bass into 2 channels, we can do it in the Phaseplant itself. The sub is an analog sine 12 semitones down, filtering everything at the top, and we're gonna send this group to lane 2. The main bass consists of the analog triangle wave and a Soto triangle preset from Wavetable. This one is in the morphs folder, filtering low end and sending it to lane 1, where we can use a bit of distortion with a bit of spread. And finally adding some LFO to add some movement to the wavetable positioning, and that's it. This sound was too noisy at the top, so I used an EQ8 to shave off these higher frequencies, as usual, and you get this pretty nice sound. So-called level 100 bass is more of a rundown of most of the tips in this video that are viable for Phaseplant synth. In this case I used 2 wavetables which just represent 2 unique oscillators that you can choose yourself to get a more unique sound with your REESE. Adding some distortion and filtering, routing it to lane 1 and adding a bit of phase distortion to create a sense of movement. The same thing with the sub, using an analog sine 12 semitones down and routing it to the lane 2, leaving it clean. And on the master lane I just added some multipass with dynamic EQ preset. After all of that I processed everything with multiband dynamics, emphasizing mids and lowering highs a bit. Adding a fab filter with mids declutter preset, magic switch to add some chorus, EQ8 to shave off high end, and ending everything with glue compressor with soft clipper on. Autopan here is more for automation in case you need it, to create this gated effect. Once again, you can go more complex and start adding more instrument layers, but with Phaseplant you can do most of these things inside of the synth. I tried to make REESE bass simpler, not to make it too complicated and not too overpowering, so these are just a couple of ideas for your REESE bass sound design. I hope this video was somewhat helpful, keep making your own sound, and bye.